like Reiki, yoga, Tantra, Qigong, and a series of other things that people don't think are aspects of or types of religion. Feng Shui is definitely a variety of Taoist religion. There are different opinions, I'm sure, but this book gives a good overview of such, complete with pictures and diagrams, and it sort of comes off as my favorite book on the subject that I have encountered. So, of course, there are Chinese calendar dates for the years of rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. 2007 is the last one listed. Of course, now we have the internet. So when you combine the dates, if you're the sort of person who would do that sort of thing, the dates for the people involved and the dates for the people who are the features that you're putting in, if you want to work up some sort of compatibility, you can just look up which Chinese year we are in. And certainly, this is a text that will aid an experience, aid in your productivity in your life, your garden in particular, obviously. Now, there are other things that, other than the astrological aspects, that, it's the people's belief in it. It's not that it has power in itself. It's important to consider that just like the ancient people who used some of these methods or principles thousands of years ago, we perhaps too should get an idea of analyzing things outside of that. Now, one thing that does work outside your faith and consideration, whether it's the age of Aquarius or which sign is which element now, the Chinese have that cardinal fixed mutable sort of arrangement, much the same that you would have with in the West. But there's ways of figuring some of this stuff out, and your cultural associations might also help. Now, the numerical arrangements, like the magic square, 8 of this over here, 1 of this, and that stuff, those sort of number balances, that works. To give a different feel, a different perception of things. But that doesn't mean, for example, when you find 3 by 3 that it's Saturnal, and 4 by 4 is jovial, and 5 by 5 is martial, and 6 by 6 is solar, and 7 by 7 is Venusian, and 8 by 8 is mercurial, and 9 by 9 is lunar, and other such things. You can employ different symbolism, can't you? And based on the sort of charts that people would have with these things, they would select plants. And those plants also had attributes of elements. Now, you do have the trigrams, and there's 64 trigrams, broken line, unbroken line combinations. and of course the combinations within the combinations. And so there's arrangements with that. You have this idea of the tortoise quality, or the tortoise quarter. Could be a turtle, if you want to think of a turtle, in the north, and a phoenix in the south, and in the west, a tiger, in the east, a dragon. And so when you make arrangements, it's not just this space over here. It's what's going off in the distance, what's outside of your control, to consider the flow. That maybe you don't want to have a solid fence because it will end up hitting the plants and the plants will be weaker because of the uneven wind that hits it. So open spots in a fence generally are a good idea. Now, security reasons, no. But as far as gardening reasons, yes. And all sorts of rows, there's compatibilities between plants. As far as magical squares, one idea that we have is the 5 in the center. And so 492, 357, 816 is the Tai Chi square proper. And it's called the low shoe. I went in order of the book, but remember my house of rank that has 8 sides. And so that's one use of the Tai Chi thing. So in that sense, the verse with the above and below that forms ceiling and floor would be the equivalent of the 5, which is very fitting in a Tai Chi sense. I haven't made as much use of that ritual in recent years, but in that sense, the northwest would be the 6. The north would be the 1. The northeast would be the 8. The 3 would be the east. The southeast would be the 4. The south would be the 9. The southwest would be the 2. The 7 would be the west. And the 5 would be the center. As far as the year numbers, the male number starts with 9 in descending order for 1982, and 1 in ascending order, 1986, for example. So 2026 would be 2 for male and 4 for female. As far as the trigram for each direction, we have in the east an unbroken line at the bottom and 2 broken lines. The southeast, 1 broken line at the bottom and then 2 unbroken lines. The south, a broken line in the middle of 2 unbroken lines. The southwest, 3 broken lines. The west, a broken line and 2 unbroken lines. The northwest, 3 unbroken lines. The north, a broken line, an unbroken line, and then another broken line. The northeast, 2 broken lines at the bottom and 1 unbroken at the top. And we have different arrangements of the twist of the wheel depending on what direction you're facing. And the symbols are recognizable for, I mentioned the tortoise in the north, and the phoenix in the south, and the dragon in the east, and the tiger in the west. So there's the qualities of that. And okay, what the symbols in the west are pentagrams would probably have spirit at the top. Are really, if you're tracing them, spirit, those lines in between fire and earth. But the just single point up, sort of that adds something to it symbol. Not the plus thing, but you know what I mean, that. So the fire at the top, water at the bottom left as the, sort of a couple lines that are like flattened M's. Metal, kind of like a cup upside down on the right bottom point. Earth kind of makes a block, but you know what I mean, it angles towards the flat, and so it's sort of like a bench, but it's not curved on the right top. And wood is a lot more narrow, just it's a skinny arch. Now earth is yellow, water blue, fire red, metal black, and wood green. They look at the energy in the heavens, energy of the humans, and the energy of the elements. And by humans, I also think that, the energy of the various animals will be considered likewise. The importance is to engage a sort of natural progress with what's going on. There are effects that can be seen by paying attention to the lunar cycle. So it's a shame that our modern calendars kind of step that aside, or they don't acknowledge the possibility of a shift by adding intercalculary dates. So, the lunar cycles are important to consider in planting as well. I mentioned, that this book gives tables of correspondences, the shapes to employ. And we have the bigrams to consider. Summer with the double line, autumn with the line, and then on the bottom a broken line. The spring with the unbroken line at the bottom, and then broken line. And by bottom, the closest to you, because that's how you cast the I Ching. And winter with the double broken line. If you have railings or fence, green might be a good color for that. And, whether it's wood or not, it's good to kind of connect it to that. And plants that particularly go up, those are fire things. And placing them in a corner like you might have a real fire is an important thing to consider. And there's also division into the time of year in terms of your planting of, your use of the different types of things that you do in the garden. Too strong of contrasts in how you have a building is, can be problematic. Having your lighted fixtures be pointy can help. And If you don't have a water feature, it helps to make the rows and stuff not quite so straight. And of course, there's the importance of the difference between a yard and a garden. Whether it's left wild or there's control, it helps to reflect on the nature of the cosmos, on divinity causing the multiplication of entities and other factors of the material world. It's important to consider what things go on nowadays that, didn't used to go on. The factory farmed soils and stuff aren't like your regular soils that occur naturally. Wood breaks down differently than just being blended. So it helps to, if you have to use these to compost and use other natural processes, and having the wrong variety of shapes and all that, can even be detrimental to the person involved. And of course, Feng Shui gives you some sort of framing. In Chinese, we're not just dealing with, okay, this makes this sound and, this is this word. You can see things that relate in the very words themselves. No, I'm not going to draw out the words for fire, air, and earth and all that, but you can see both the correlation between some of the symbols and otherwise through that. And of course, it can help to know who lived a place and what was done before. Taoism isn't the sort of occultism that people are used to. It's not the same thing as divining answers. When you work with the Tao Te Ching, you look at these combinations and it reminds you of possibilities, of meaning. Certainly, you can believe in a creator, but it's not done in the way of typical Western religion either. There's that holistic working of patterns and symbols. As far as the trigrams, we have fire as a broken line between two unbroken lines, water as an unbroken line between two broken lines, earth as three broken lines, heaven as three unbroken lines, wind as the broken line being nearest, and then two unbroken lines, lake as the broken line being farthest, and two unbroken lines, thunder as the bottom line being unbroken, but then two broken lines, mountain as the top line being unbroken, but then two unbroken lines. And the yin is in the yang, and the yang is in the yin. The yin is the female and lunar, the dark side. The yang is the bright and solar. Now, not about to say that we all have feminine sides and all that stuff like a lot of people are going to say, So when you combine the trigrams, you form the 64 hexagrams. And by studying these themes, you perfect yourself. Now, if you understand these correspondences, one of the things that happens is you start to perfect yourself. You see how things can develop or degrade. Wood either goes to fire or to earth. Fire either causes ash, which is a form of earth, or it turns to metal. Earth, either the metal is brought out or it soaks up. Metal either flows or cuts. Water either causes growth or extinguishes. Wood is considered Jupiter, fire, Mars, Earth, Saturn, metal, Venus, water, Mercury. And we can think of these things related to the seasons, right? And the shapes that I have described previously, these shapes help us to figure out what the feature is. And you can combine that with the particular plant that you're dealing with. Now, in dealing with calendar, it helps, like, which direction you're planting a plant in, and what you're, relating things particularly to. Now, there's some things wiggle, some things spiral, and so it's important to consider the energy flow and how, planting different things at different times, different dates of the month. Oh, I've already gone into that. And of course, like everything else, the plants were related to, parts of the body. And not all of these things are universals in terms of healing or other such things. As far as the animals, the black tortoise is as a protector, the white tiger, the green dragon, and the red phoenix, if you don't have the natural features that are related to the elements or whatever, you can add them. And so now a person might put down a rock garden. Well, the Zen Buddhists don't have any plants in the rock garden, and things are kind of arranged. And the Bagua is the Feng Shui magic square that is used to describe things. And I've already gone over extensively, well, without reading the book or whatever, the ideas of design and figuring out the flow. So I guess that's as good of a place to stop as any.